All right, guys. So this Jordan McKinney guy, right? Let's watch his video.
In this video, I'm going to explain why the Lightning Network cannot actually scale Bitcoin to mass adoption, as the Bitcoin community is now starting to realize, and why, given the current scaling trajectory, namely Lightning and Liquid, 99.9% of people will never be able to own or use real Bitcoin, but instead would be forced to use Bitcoin IOUs issued by custodial services, aka banks, which of course means that fractional reserve becomes possible and inevitable because these IOUs can sidestep the 21 million hard cap, and we're back to the same system we were trying to escape from.
Okay, so it's trying to give up, right? But then listen to him explaining his version of decentralization.
First, let's recall why we're trying to scale with layers to begin with. So we have our Bitcoin layer 1, which is our global decentralized ledger, and this system is run on many thousands of computers spread around the world, and we can't run the system too fast, because if we do, these weaker, more consumer grade kind of entry level computers will not be able to keep up. They'll fall off the system, and what's left will be a bunch of high-end servers run by a few number of people, and the whole system becomes centralized and it defeats the whole purpose.
Okay, defeats the whole purpose. Like, come on, guys. When are we going to understand the original Bitcoin design? Does this guy not understand? Please. Debate with me. Jordan McKinney, please. An SPV wallet, an SPV node. It doesn't need to be a full node. It's just the ability to check. It's just the ability for a computer to check hashes, to check transactions and see that they're valid. Because everything is signed, see that they're valid. No, you need to run a full node to continue making blocks. But that just means that you need one trusted node, because as soon as you find an invalid block from these other nodes that you thought you trusted or whatever, you can just produce valid blocks from that. I mean, it's really that simple. Like, you don't need, it doesn't make sense for routing. You have to have centralization, first of all, because the whole point of double spend checking is to check the rest of the network, which means you have to have it can't be a mesh network, because you can't check for double spend if it's a mesh. That doesn't make any sense. And Caspa can try to do something like that, but then it prevents you from being able to trade. Statistically, the whole thing is you have to combine all the blocks together anyway to really truly check for double spends. It doesn't make sense not to. You have to have, when in his form, his definition, the small blockers definition of decentralized, they think that it needs to be separated out, pulled out. That's not what it means. In computer science, it just means you have some nodes in a network, meaning this is just referring to the full blocks, right? Not even talking about the fact that when you pay someone directly, you don't even need to connect to the internet to actually manufacture the transaction. In Lightning, you need to be connected to the internet, ironically, and yet in the original Bitcoin, you don't. So first of all, I don't get how that makes the BTC form more decentralized anyway. But the nodes, they need to be highly connected. And Craig explains this in a speech. He shows them, it's like having one of those graphs that's a complete graph. A graph meaning like you have different nodes and then they're all heavily connected with one another. And that's exactly what you want if you're checking for double spends. You want a system like that, and that's not you manufacturing transactions. It's also not you when somebody's paying you to check if their transaction makes sense. It's just the system that's there for you to check for double spends. And it can't get away with manufacturing. It can't make up a fake transaction anyway. You need the private key to make this elliptical curve digital signature. So how do you not understand this yet? Like, you can't tell me, oh, we can't let these nodes get too big. But like that, you'll need that. So BSV solves this. Like, this is what's frustrating to me is people try to come up with these layered solutions on top, but they don't understand to check for a double spend means you literally need to check all other parts of the network, because somebody will purposely try to pick a part of the network that you somehow can't check, which means you have to actually group the information together anyway. So Lightning, yes, it doesn't make sense because of the routing. That's the reason why it doesn't make sense. People will say it doesn't make sense because you need to have, maybe it doesn't make enough sense because you need to get that Bitcoin, all those little contracts set up, and you have to have them with enough Bitcoin. But even that, like, the main problem is the networking. And networking is meant to be a two-tier system. You got the nodes, and then you got SPV wallets. You got people who can check any transaction they want. They can make transactions and pay people, but they have the ability to certify, to verify that all these hashes match up, that everything makes sense. It's not like they don't have the ability to check that. SPV is a huge part of Bitcoin. If you study Bitcoin and you don't study what SPV is, then forget it. So let me see if I can include like a talk about SPV from Craig.
What is a node? A node is not every little tiny Raspberry Pi running everywhere. The machines running Bitcoin in January 2009 were bigger than every single Raspberry Pi. Not a single one of them. The machines Hell ran, the machines Bear ran. Everyone else who joined this thing at that point had bigger machines running these damn things. And now we have this idea that we can't run it on a little tiny, incy-wincy, insignificant machine. Who cares? What is more important? You having a copy of the blockchain, or you having money that no one can manipulate? Honestly, start thinking. These whole utopian ideas of how you spend money are wrong. Economic fundamentals matter. Lightning doesn't work because no one spends that way. I do not go over to Waitrose, or whatever your store is anywhere, and ask them to take a bag of carrots and give me money. That's the bidirectional models. They don't work. I don't go down the road in some big co-op and go, well, I've just made a box of widgets. How about you give me money for it and whatever else? Barter never really existed, ever. What we have now is a system that changes everything. Our new generation, our new genesis, is the creation of the first ever hard money. The first money that allows for freedom. Gold was never hard because we never had it. When Nixon took America off the gold exchange standard, which wasn't a gold standard, do you know how much of that gold was actually there? Around 5%. So they didn't actually have the gold that they were backing their currency with. So SPP and merchants. Merchants give a rat's. When you go and you pay a merchant, they care that they get the payment. They're the ones who want zero conf. They're the ones who know what they can and can't risk. When you pay a merchant, you don't care that your payment hasn't or has been accepted straight away. You care that you've handed the payment over and you've walked out the store with the goods and you've got a receipt. More than that, who cares? You're not going to sit there and want to validate that the merchant actually got paid. Really, you don't care. So, what we need to move away from these silly ideas that we need to split Bitcoin into little bits so that everyone can own their little bit of Bitcoin. Everyone wants segwit. 1984 doublespeak. Everyone does not want segwit.
I just want to confirm that the statement "everyone wants segment" is a false statement because I don't want segment. So I want BSV, and I want people to use SPV nodes, and I want large blocks, and I'm fine with traceability because it gives enough privacy, and it keeps criminals from being able to just do whatever they want. Evil. I don't want children to be sold, and So, yeah, not everyone wants SegWit. They might trick you into wanting SegWit or BTC or Lightning, but those are going to end up being more centralized because you're going to need permission. You're going to need to be connected to the internet. You're going to need these watchtowers. You're going to need the large lightning nodes, because it's not going to make sense until you have large nodes. And I want freedom. So I want BSV because I believe that BSV will give freedom, and it will give a lawful commodity, and it works like cash. So, and it's Turing complete, so it's got all the smart contract capability, so I don't have to worry about needing something like Ethereum or Cardano or something. So